Date of sobriety, 24th of July, 1993. Thank you, Joe, for asking me. I was supposed to be organising some panels, and then Joe asked me to speak on one. First things first, I've got 5 points to make. I'm going to make them in order. The first point, sobriety above all else, sobriety before all else. And what this meant for me when I was new, and I know what I'm about to say might be disagreeable or distasteful to some, but if it's the case, then so be it. I had to be free of any chemical influence whatsoever for the program to even start to take. Other people have different experiences, read the side of the packet, fine. But for me, I needed to be very clear about what was okay to do and to put into my body and what was not okay. Because of the intensity of the problems other than alcohol I had when I got into AA, people would queue up after meetings to give me very well-meaning advice about all sorts of therapies and medications and doctors and psychiatrists and clinics and, as it says in the big book, practitioners of every sort. And boy, the list was eye-opening. I was advised to do things I'd never even heard of. And I duly went to the doctor and got some medication, and I felt different. And the next thought that I had was, I will never know again whether what I'm feeling is real, whether what I'm thinking is my thought or if it's induced by the chemical I've just taken. My brain doesn't know where the chemical has come from. The effect is the effect. And I made a decision. Other people make decisions, that's fine. We all get to stay in the room. But I made the decision, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try. Let's just try the experiment of not having anything and just seeing what's going to happen. And I would sometimes arrive at a meeting like 3 hours before the meeting and sit there waiting because I literally didn't know what to do with myself. But I could wait for the meeting, and then for about 5 minutes during the meeting, I would be fine. And I could wait for that, and there'd be a click, I would be fine, and then after the meeting I would be crazy again, but then I'd wait for the next meeting. And I discovered a remarkable thing, that my feelings will not kill me. There's nothing wrong with feeling. There is nothing wrong with feeling really, really bad. Feeling really bad is not a problem, it's a fact. And it's a fact which will change. So I needed to even start the process, stop an awful lot of other things. And with certain other behaviours and just ordinary, regular, everyday things, I need to be very careful about food and all sorts of other things as well. I need to be present for this process. If I'm not present, if my thoughts and feelings are not mine, but induced by the behaviour or the chemicals or what I eat or whatever, I'm not giving myself a chance. I'm working with a figment. I've got to work with the reality, however awful the reality is. That's what I have to work with. Start there, see what happens. And it was rough, very good, yes, and a lot of things are rough. Throughout history, a lot of things have been rough. I'm not entitled to not have a rough time. And honestly, I'd rather live a life which is worthwhile and full, where nothing is propping me up except the tools of life itself. To me, that's the point. It's not to feel good. The purpose of my life is not to feel good. It is to live a life where I can look at it and say, I'm proud of what is going on here, of what is happening through me, and of the fact that I've learned how to face reality. The second one is Steps first, sort out my life later. I needed to get a couple of very basic things in place. I needed to get a job. I needed to get somewhere to live. I didn't need to sort out my psychology first before getting a job. Sometimes people say you need to concentrate on your recovery. You know you can do that in the same week that you're working. Because where you work is an opportunity to practice the program. You can do two things at once. You can work and practice the program. But I needed something to give me a structure. But then the job was not to sort my life out, sort my relationships out. No, I needed to work the steps. And people said, stay out of other people's bedrooms until you have completed step 9. And don't let anyone into yours. You are the only person allowed in your bedroom. Why? There are so many reasons. We could do a whole workshop on why it's a really bad idea. But the most brutal one was, until I was clear of the past, I was going to perform historical reenactments. And I did not have the right to re-inflict my past into the present of unsuspecting others. It simply was not entitled. And as a friend of mine from California says, they have to chant, at meetings they chant at the end, the keep coming back, keep working. He said at their meetings in the People's Republic of Berkeley, they have to say things like, I'm not going to die if I don't get laid, I'm not going to die if I don't get laid. Maybe give it 5 years and then see. Just sort some stuff out, pay back all the debts first. There are so many more important things. And the thing is, if I were to have tried to sort my life, whatever that was, out before doing the steps, I would be making decisions of a long-term nature which a future me would have to live with. And the future me was not going to thank the pre-steps me for its neat decision-making. I needed to put myself at the starting line. The last 3 steps don't maintain anything. They start the building process after the first 9 steps have razed my life to the ground, so that there is nothing left, including everything I thought I was. So, steps first. Third point. Again, very unpopular in this 21st century of ours. I've been told by my friends we're in the 21st century now. I'm still not entirely convinced. The spiritual before the psychological. I thought when I got to AA, and for a long time afterwards, I had psychological problems. Why? Because everyone told me I did, and I thought, well, that sounds plausible. And I certainly presented like I had psychological problems. Sorting out the spiritual first meant sorting out my fundamental relationship with God and the universe first. Try that, give it 10 years, and then see if there's anything left over. And I was off my behaviour as a teenager was off the scale. I was on what they, I think, refer to rather dramatically in America as a suicide watch. In England, they just say, well, just keep an eye on him. And that means he could die at any point. So I did not have mild problems. They were very severe. And you couldn't have got anyone to agree that this person pointing to me, this person's problem was spiritual, not psychological. I tell you, it was spiritual. And there was some small change things which needed to be sorted out afterwards. What was the spiritual problem? I was the centre and main objective of my life. There was no God. There was no realm of the spirit. There was no metaphysical realm. When I died, that was going to be the end of it. I was just some emanation of my physical brain, and I needed to get my physical brain full of different chemicals so that I would have a different experience of life. And I didn't care where those chemicals came from or if I could produce them myself using certain behaviours. That was the basis of living. If that doesn't make you anxious and depressed, nothing will. If thinking that all there is the material world doesn't depress you and make you anxious, you're not paying attention. Or you're dissociated with sugar, that's the other option. We'll delete that from the tape, don't worry. I do not speak on behalf of AA, just be very clear on that. Just my own views and experience. I needed to have God as the centre and main objective of my life. I needed to recognise my status as creature, not as self-made person. I was not here for myself. I didn't ask to be born. Absolutely, very good, well spotted. I was here for something else, and the thing that I was here for was not me. So any notion of me, I want, is an irrelevant way to start a sentence. It's a meaningless way. Who is the I? Behind the I is God. How about asking the thing that made me what it wants for me? There's already a plan. So why am I saying to why I want this? Do you now? What good has that ever done you? How many times have you got the thing that you wanted and been unhappy? Was a question I was asked. And yet I would continue to ask myself, well, what do you want? What do you think will make you happy? None of the things that I thought I wanted made me happy. I've just given up. I've just given up. Every morning, God, what do you want me to do? I don't care. I do it. That's the end of it. Carrying the message first, other obligations later. So I go to a morning meditation meeting at 7 a.m, online, 20 minutes, big book based, non-fellowship specific, and I'm there certainly during the week with the camera on, ready to carry the message if asked. And if I'm asked, I carry the message, and if I'm not, that's fine too. And the most important things in my day are the opportunities for carrying a message. If I discharge those, I'll have a good day, I'll be looked after. As my friend Anthony says, if you're more useful to God sober than drunk or stoned or high or acting out or whatever, you'll be kept sober for that purpose. So I need to take the lead on that and make sure that every day I'm maximising the number of opportunities to carry the message. What people do with the message is none of my business. It's unpopular. You can't sell it. You can't give it away. You really can't. As a friend of mine says, she's sponsored many people and most of them have never forgiven her. If you don't understand that yet, you need to sponsor a few more people. You're probably a bit too cosy with your little sponsees in your car, going to Denny's after the meeting, all cosy. Yeah, that's got to stop. I've got to be able to tell the truth to people. As Louise would say, you might as well tell them the truth because they're going to die anyway. So just boom, tell them the truth. Carry the message first. The other obligations must be fulfilled because they're there to be fulfilled, but also because the fulfillment of those obligations, home, occupation, and affairs, furnishes me with excellent worked examples for the carrying of the message. So the message is not just an abstract set of principles and things to do, it's illustrated by those examples. I need to go and get some examples. So I've got an occupation, I've got a home, I've got affairs, I do all sorts of things. The last thing is sort out the internal and the external will sort itself out. So as I alluded to earlier, I don't have a career, I do have an occupation, and it's none of my business what my status is or what my money is. I need to be a good custodian of the pennies that come in and be frugal about their spending and be careful to allocate enough time to work. But making money is not what it's about. Achieving status or anything like that is not what it is about. My job is to do the job God gave me to do for the day, whether it's doing the dishes or doing something in my occupation. But the internal first. Rest in God first. If I'm depressed or anxious or worried or frightened or excited or full of ideas, I've got to be very careful. I need to be still and empty of ideas, with no idea, no clue, no interest in anything, and then say to God, what do you want me to do? And then I'll get the real thing. That's what I got. Thank you.